Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking about the modernization of accounts receivable, both the particular improvements that Dynamics ERP customers can enjoy, and the evolution of AR in the context of other CFO priorities. This episode is sponsored by Versapay, and my guests, Versapay Senior Product Manager Meredith Mitchell and National Partner Manager David Gersten, talk to me about the work that's already underway to modernize accounting operations. We discuss the shift away from paper, why integrating AR with Dynamics is so critical to cash flow, what to look for when evaluating digital AR solutions, and Versapay's latest integrated payments capabilities for Dynamics ERP solutions. All right. Well, Meredith Mitchell, David Gersten, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I wanted to start the conversation talking about some data, some trends that your team has been seeing around digitizing AR and AP. I want to ask what some of the concepts are that are related to that kind of accounting modernization in the real world, and how they relate directly to the Microsoft Dynamics customer base and even Microsoft partners today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think a lot of, if you look across the landscape of business technology and industries, we've seen digitization, or this concept of digitizing, happen, across a lot, like I said, a lot of industries, but it really feels like business to business payments and, AR in general has really been left behind, frankly. So we're hearing a lot of AR leaders kind of talking about understanding and knowing that they need to be adopting more modern approaches. But frankly, it's not easy. This change is not easy, and it's not easy to just take these old processes and, kind of modernize them, quickly and easily. If it was easy, it would have been done already, I think, largely. So there really just haven't been a lot of great options out there. I think another thing that we're hearing when we think about, modernization and like you said, the real world of what customers and partners are facing is just that in general, end user customers are changing and their expectations are changing. So I think a lot of businesses know that they need to be modernizing and, transforming the way that their AR functions have been happening for decades, but they don't know how to do it. And at the same time, their customers are kind of coming to them, with this expectation that it should be easy and that they should be able to just get their, invoices online and make payments online, or, have more visibility and more transparency into, their accounts. And the other thing I think we're kind of, seeing from customer expectations is that nobody really wants to pick up the phone anymore. They want easy ways to be communicating with vendors. And so, a lot of these things are kind of happening that make it, hard to make changes, but also feeling a lot of pressure, like changes need to happen. And I'll just make one other kind of last point around this is that, the other thing I think that we really kind of see in here is that AR leaders want more than just digitization. So, it's more than just processing credit card transactions or being able to take a credit card, payment. It's really looking at the whole AR process, which largely for most businesses probably hasn't changed in decades, and really trying to figure out how you not only digitize, but really transform those processes and bring more benefits to the AR, folks working in AR, as well as, customers who are on the other side of that, exchange, and really how that translates into a better customer experience. So, and if we look at Dynamics and customers and partners specifically, there's another kind of component there that is the ERP, right? So, the ERPs do a lot of, obviously, heavy lifting, great work, huge importance to any, business, but AR and this kind of creating this, place where they can provide transparency to customers, accept multiple types of payments, automate a lot of these processes is not the area of expertise or specialty around the ERP. So we don't expect the ERP to do it, but we do need to keep the ERP totally in sync and really the focus of the data. So I think that's where we hear a lot of customers and partners having questions, concerns, wanting to understand how technology can help them without walking away from or moving or creating more manual processes by doing something outside of their ERP that now needs to be, pulled back in and have data updated there. So we have a lot of complex, problems to solve. There's two sides of this. You got your AP and your AR, right? You got two different parties that need to communicate. And we're talking about processes that have been in place for decades that need to change and be updated. And then, of course, keeping our ERP in sync. So that's kind of what I hear and see when I look out of the landscape and we start talking about, how do we modernize? What are the problems we're facing and how are people talking about those?
And Meredith, if I could add to that, the strategic role of the CFO, the study that we did last year is just saying like the time is now. I mean, that's what's really exciting is, so we did this survey of about 400 CFOs about 12 months ago, but they said like 93% of them were currently digitizing their accounting systems. And then 3% of them were going to do it in the next 12 months. So we now know we're in that window that almost every single CFO out there that we surveyed is currently doing it. And their priorities are around, invoicing the customers and payment processing and tracking the payments and all of those things to ultimately have a better customer relationship. And, what's ironic is it's not so much the digitization that's the prioritization or driving it, but obviously the pandemic had a huge play on it. The Great Resignation is having a big play on it. The cost of money is having a big play on it. So there's so many different things that are impacting why people are looking at finally the accounting operations as part of the digitization. They've looked for years at AP, but AR is like that final, I like to say the final mile, but why not try to get paid faster so that you can go and pay on the AP side, which is kind of ironic that it's the last area inside the back office to really look at digitization.
David, you just touched on several of the real world, perhaps pain points that I think our listeners can probably relate to. Can we dive into maybe one or two of those in a little more detail? Does either of you maybe want to focus on one, either the economic conditions, the geopolitical issues, perhaps even some of the technological ones? Are there any that really jump out to you?
If you look at the pandemic as a whole, I mean, just think about people didn't go into offices. So all of a sudden there's payments that are sitting, checks that are sitting in offices that are closed, in lockboxes that aren't getting serviced. There's, all sorts of methods of, this gap that's between the buyers paying the merchants. And, you have to have technology in place to mitigate those challenges. Obviously, businesses needed to operate. They needed to get their money into their ledger, so that they could pay their employees, they could pay their rent, they could pay everything. But they just weren't even in the office. So we saw this acceleration of, we need to get digitization, even if it is a check. 34% of business payments are still, people are still using checks. So how do we transform that into, getting paid faster, reducing the friction between an AR and an AP department, things like that I think are really key to this type of transformation.
Absolutely. And if I can add to that, David, I think that, some of the pain points that we're hearing from customers as we talk to them are, competition is getting steep, right? Like a lot of these industries, you have really highly competitive, companies that are vying for, a customer base, and we can't compete on price alone, especially in recent months as we're seeing inflation and things like that. Competing on price is not always going to be easy. So our customers are looking more and more for ways that they can differentiate themselves. It's not necessarily price alone. And I think it really comes down to, for a lot of them, what the customer experience is, because as we have, obviously more and more millennials taking over more leadership roles in organizations, those folks are accustomed to going online to, having this digital, lifestyle that they have grown up with. And so, that customer experience to them, what a good customer experience to them looks very different than maybe what a good customer experience was 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so there's an expectation that I can, self-serve. I can go online. I can, I don't have to pick up a phone to talk to my vendor, that I have options for making payments, that I can see transparency into my account and, handle it when it's convenient for me. So being able to provide that experience helps to set that business apart, or that, that merchant apart from maybe their competitors. So that's another big thing that I think we're seeing and hearing as, again, the pandemic, has had impact, and just, other economic constraints or impacts that are happening, for customers out there. And David, I know we've talked about this before, but also security is a big, factor that we hear from customers.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's funny when people think security, all of a sudden people are thinking technology security. But remember, we have this one customer that we talk about a lot, that they actually had physical security issues. Their, post office, their postman person, the postal officer was literally taking checks out of their mailbox. And how do we prevent that from happening? So by getting such a huge adoption, we have 81% of our customers in the buyers that are in the Versapay network are using our solution. So 81% success of people getting into the network and using it, which transforms their experience, the buyer's experience working with the customers, the merchants at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, it's easier for them to pay. They know they're going to pay. They're not going to get collection letters. They're not going to get, late notices and things like that. They're going to have a really easy way to go in, pay their invoices, dispute them, talk about them, look at supporting documents, a lot of those type of things beyond just applying a payment to an invoice that they owe.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more maybe about some of those networking impacts or effects when you do kind of connect the merchant and the buyer?
We're part of this, we call it the Versapay network. So you've got obviously the ERP users, which are a core part, and our embedded solutions in the Dynamics products allow users of Business Central or Finance and Supply Chain Management, NAV, GP, all of those solutions to present their invoices to their buyers. And then those buyers actually sometimes have their own AP systems. So we actually have abilities to connect to those, whether or not they're using, some sort of purchase requisition set solution or a buying division or something like that they're looking at networking with. So as you look at this interweb of connectivity between whether or not it's the AP side or it's the merchants themselves, what we're also finding is you have all these merchants using our solution with their buyers. And then these are the same buyers. A lot of these buyers are using different customers and stuff. So they have this digital wallet that they're able to actually continue and use with multiple merchants. So it just extends and continues to build on that network of connectivity and allows you to really use secure tokenization and be compliant in how you're handling those type of situations. Meredith, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I say if I can expand on that a little bit. I mean, I think that's the foundation of what we're trying to do at Versapay is, like David said, building this network where we're connecting buyers and merchants, or sometimes we refer to them as suppliers. But the other component is that we need to bring these folks together in one place where they can be sharing common data and common technology. So to David's point, we can integrate with, AP portals to be able to, import payments from there. We can also digest and digitize, lockbox information. So if you're getting checks that are coming in, through lockbox or other ACH remittances, like bank to bank remittances, we can, process and match and apply those payments, with like a 90% or greater match rate. But what I love so much about, our technology that deals with some of these older, payment methods is that when we don't have a direct match, what we're doing is encouraging the customer to the customer portal, to the digital platform, where our collaboration can happen for them to do the matching. And what that does is kind of give them a preview, give them a little bit of experience, a touch of what our digital, cloud platform is able to offer, and hopefully encourages them more towards that digital adoption, even if they had been paying by check previously. So we're always exposing people to, our network and the UI that is on that network. And when I'm talking about the UI specifically, I mean, we have a supplier side of the UI, which is we call the supplier portal, and a customer portal, which is the customer or the buyer side. And when they are sharing that technology, so, we're hosting these portals on our cloud, the buyer is logging in, they're viewing all of their open invoices. So I like to say we're kind of giving buyers their own view into your ERP without actually giving them any access to our ERP, because we obviously don't want to do that, but they can see their holistic, all of the invoices that I have open, all of the credits, all of the documents related to it. They can provide payments there. They can short pay or overpay. They can provide notes around those payments. They can ask questions about the invoices. So if they notice they're looking at an invoice document, something's wrong, or maybe they received an item that was broken, instead of having to pick up the phone, they just go right there into their portal, find that invoice, make a comment, say, hey, I'm not going to pay this whole invoice. There was a, broken item. And because there's a supplier side to this, the supplier or the merchants then are receiving those comments, receiving that, collaboration, those messages, and are able to respond right there again back to their buyers on that invoice. Or if they're getting a short payment, they can see the reason, and there's a reason code associated with it that's coming into the ERP and applying. So they have all of that detailed information there so they can know what to do with that. So, we talk a lot about the gap between AR and AP, and it's because those folks, the AP and the AR they're in different places most of the time. And they can't see what the left hand, the left hand can't see what the right hand's doing. The right hand can't see what the left hand. But when you're on the Versapay network, when you're on our platform, we're really building these connections. We're closing that gap. We're putting everybody in the same place using a common language and a common tool to be able to make payments, to manage issues that come up, to really holistically look at the AR process. And again, always encouraging that digital adoption. As David mentioned, we have an 81% digital adoption rate, but also being able to manage and deal with those exceptions and payments coming in that aren't necessarily digital payments, and still being able to digest and manage them through our network.
Yeah, that analogy is so interesting. The AR and the AP, people with those responsibilities are so closely connected, and yet they're sort of looking in completely different directions in a sense. And I was hoping we could maybe put some of that into more specific context of like Dynamics ERP products in terms of sort of what you recommend for actually taking on these challenges and achieving sort of digital competency with AR for a Dynamics ERP specifically.
Yeah, I think, David, I don't know if I have some thoughts, so I'll share mine and then I'll give you a minute to share yours as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when we talk about Dynamics specifically, what I really appreciate about the approach that we're taking at Versapay is, first and foremost, we have ERP experts on staff. We have folks who've been working in the Microsoft ERPs, whether they have worked at, partners or, ISVs, but, over 10 years of experience, many members of our team. So we really understand the Microsoft ERPs very well. The other pieces that we're building and productizing connectors to that ERP. So we're taking our cloud platform, and obviously we need to be, pulling data from the ERP and syncing data back into the ERP and keeping that ERP, that source of truth, always for the finance team. But we've basically taken a more productized approach to that connector so that it's always being enhanced and looked at and used. And there's a roadmap around the connector so that it's constantly improving and becoming more and more robust. And it means that we can implement, and get customers live and to value a lot faster, through that approach. So I think, having that on-staff expertise, really understanding, how much time and energy Dynamics customers put into their ERP and getting it exactly the way they want it, and understanding how we also, work with partners strategically to make sure that customers are getting, their workflows accommodated. But David, I know you probably have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm going to put my previous partner hat on. Many people know that I was spent almost a dozen years as a partner in the Dynamics space, and that's how you and I met, Jason, originally. But being in the ISV world, it totally changes my perception, and realizing I was a very difficult partner to work with. I had very high expectations of an ISV, and back when Versapay is the new home of ChargeLogic, and when we were working with ChargeLogic at the time, the same people, the same technology, the same great, network and everything, it's still here. It's just under the Versapay umbrella. So at the end of the day, and we even have better, more solutions to offer and things like that. And I think that was a key differentiator when working with an ISV. As a partner, I wanted to work with a partner, an ISV that can fulfill all of the ERP solutions. I think that's something that really differentiates us here at Versapay. Everything from traditional legacy GP, Navision, and AX, all the way to the cloud-based SaaS solutions as well in the BizApp space within Microsoft. I think that's really a key differentiator, making it easy, being present as a preferred solution out in AppSource, being a part of the ISV Connect program, which really helps us work with Microsoft sellers as well as partners, premier partners throughout the world. At this point, we're starting some international stuff, but at the end of the day, we don't cut corners when it comes to customer support and service. Great partner program that is both allows partners to work at their speed, whatever they want, how involved they want to be, we can cater. We have amazing regional partner managers, like, Meredith said, with dozens of years. I mean, several of them worked at Great Plains in the old days. So, there's some great experience here that differentiates us. It's not just a group of people that wanted to throw out a solution to meet a need. We actually have very strong partnership with Microsoft. They're the ones that came to us and said, "Hey, finance and supply chain management doesn't do what you do. Can we work together and build a solution?" And that's kind of how we entered that space a year ago. So it's really things like that I think differentiates us from it. The other thing is we are embedded. It was one of the things that I always looked at as a partner is I wanted to see the stuff. I wanted to trust. I knew that my ERP couldn't do everything, but I wanted to still use it as that source of truth, like Meredith said. And when you see it physically, the screens inside the solution, you go, okay, at least it's leveraging my base core expertise of the solution that Microsoft has put out, or my partner has configured for me, and I'm not disrupting that experience or that environment too much.
Yeah, you touched on the finance and SCM integration. I would love to learn a little bit more about what's gone into that product launch, which I know you said was just in the last year, maybe from the product development side or some of the decisions that went into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really excited because that was, I come from the ChargeLogic, side of the business and came to Versapay through ChargeLogic. And so, working there for many years, FNSCM or AX, as it previously was known, was always kind of like, gosh, how do we get there? How do we take the success that we're having in the Nav and Business Central space and, expand our product offering, to that solution? But as a smaller company, quite honestly, it was like a reach goal. If we could just get the right funding, if we could just, it was something we wanted to do. And we were getting a lot of interest from partners too, like asking us, can you bring this, to FNSCM or to AX at the time? We just frankly didn't have the resources. So as soon as, we came into the fold with Versapay, and they immediately said, what's on your roadmap? What do you want to do? What is the next thing you guys see as a success here that you want to do if you had some money to do it? And that was kind of at the top of our list. At the same time, we were reinforcing our relationship with Microsoft now as Versapay. And that was frankly, one of the first things they brought to us in that conversation was, can we take what you guys are doing for Nav and Business Central and expand it to FNSCM? And we said we'd love to. And so we partnered with them, and they were actually very involved and very helpful in helping us bring that solution to market. From a technical perspective, we tried to replicate our Business Central solution as closely as possible for FNSCM. And we did that for a few reasons. One, because it makes it easier for us to, service and support it. It also makes it easier for partners to sell it, right? If you just have to kind of learn the core Versapay offering and understand that it applies almost identically across both Business Central and FNSCM, it makes it much easier for our partners to understand, to implement, to support. And it also makes our internal teams easier to implement and support and understand all of those things. Obviously, FNSCM is a bigger ERP. It's got some unique differences. And so we've brought in, technology experts who, have a long history with FNSCM to help fill in, those gaps in our knowledge and get us up to speed. But that's really how the product came to be. And, it really mirrors almost one for one what we're doing in Business Central, with some additional, needs to cater to a larger, more robust, ERP that FNSCM is.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add on that one. Meredith was present during that whole time, much more than I was, and was a key deliverable on the success of that solution.
Can we talk about maybe perhaps some of the features or capabilities from Microsoft that you've been able, either have already been able to take advantage of for your own solutions, or perhaps things that you have your eye on that you think could help you deliver a lot more interesting capabilities in the future? And I throw this open to really any part of Microsoft, whether it's Dynamics itself, Dynamics apps, Power Platform, Azure, really anywhere.
We're getting a lot of requests now for, where else can we play? Can we move into commerce? Can we move into the CE world, field services, things like that? So we're definitely looking at prioritizing and trying to see where we're going to go with that. We do feel that the momentum of our solution and aligns directly with Microsoft Cloud strategy. There's still many, many, many legacy on-premises customers in the ERP space specifically. And by moving to our solution, it really helps drive that cloud motion. So when I'm having conversations with Microsoft, that's one of the things we're looking at. We're making it more sticky. We're filling gaps, true functional gaps that don't exist, or we're building on limited functionality. Yeah, you could process a credit card through the Business Central or FNSCM, but it's very limited of, what can you accept or how can you do it? Whether or not it's PayPal or through, Microsoft Pay, or something like that. So we're opening those availabilities, but it's really, at the end of the day, it's that cloud collaboration in that AR department. Currently, that is something that is real exciting to the discussions that we're having, because it does speak the language of cloud. It allows our connectors, and our system works very well when the customers are in the SaaS environment, whether it's finance and supply chain or Business Central. So we're really looking at improving where we're at today and just becoming the leader in that space. There's not a lot of options, and we really, like we talked about the differentiations between our AR cloud, and we're not just a payment services organization type of thing, where the whole concept of AR automation isn't even a category today. I have to, just in AppSource, we have to finagle some of the SEO and the terms and stuff just to get shown up in there, because people are looking for different terms today. So I don't know how much we're really looking at developing new. It's more expanding on what we already have, make better, make good better, make great, move to even listening to the customers, become excellent, and what we're finding is one of the things is the agility that we have, that when a customer inquires and they're like, oh, we'd really like to see this, where can we put that in our product roadmap? Where can we help cater that? Because again, it's learning for everyone, because it is such a new segment, a new digitization of the world. I will share, our partnership with Microsoft is incredibly strong, though, with co-sell programs and being part of the ISV Connect and AppSource and LinkedIn Live and, working with the sellers, early engagement. But we, on the same token, we rely very, very heavily on our partners and looking to get through the consolidation of the partners right now and make sure that as new ones appear or as partners become, they transition, whether or not they're a GP partner and they move to a Business Central focus, or they're Business Central and they move to finance and supply chain, whatever it is following their path as well and being able to just continue delivering great service and have the best partner program and the best solution out there.
Yeah, and if I can add to this, and this isn't specific Microsoft technology, but I think it does speak to the Microsoft ecosystem. And we didn't talk a lot about e-commerce, but we do have also an e-commerce solution so that we can, assist merchants who are taking payments via a web store as well. And right now we have plugins with Magento and WooCommerce, and we have an API that customers can write to. But we're looking to continue to expand the other ISVs in the ecosystem that we can, partner with around providing a, seamless e-commerce experience and being able to manage, payments. There's a lot of experts out there, right, around, shopping cart development and helping merchants on that side. But if they're if they're on the Versapay network, it really helps to simplify things if those customers are processing through Versapay. And again, those payments are being stored in our wallet and can be used again to make payments, whether they're coming into the customer portal or they're making payments, online in other ways. We want that processing to come through kind of that unified, network, because it improves the customer experience and it makes things easier for the merchant. So, I think you'll see more and more, partnerships arising across the Microsoft ecosystem between Versapay and other e-commerce and shopping cart providers, as we're looking to serve together customers better, in that specific arena.
Yeah, well, and thinking back to sort of where we started this conversation, the super high level of thought going into and planning, making finance departments and CFO leadership more digitally focused and making those investments today really does sort of support or tell the other side of the story of where some of the goals are and why this is such an important point in sort of the evolution of AR digitization and the other technology and initiatives you were talking about. As we get ready to wrap up here, anything else you wanted to add? Meredith, maybe starting with you.
No, not specifically, but I will say I'm really excited to be part of the Versapay team. Just personally, I had been at ChargeLogic for a long time. Mergers and acquisitions can be difficult. This has been a really fantastic and exciting opportunity. And I feel like it's really made a huge improvement on our technology. And like I said, when Versapay kind of came in the door, the first thing they said is like, what's on your roadmap? What do you guys want to do? And how can we help you get there? And we're already seeing a lot of the fruition of that work come to, reality as we're putting out like new applications and really expanding significantly what we can do for customers, outside of what we were offering before, where, it's not just about digitizing payments, but it's really about totally transforming the way AR departments are functioning and how they are interacting. Kind of bringing these two parties together between AR and AP. So it's been a really exciting journey, and I'm really looking forward to what the future holds, because I feel like we're just getting started. And I'm really excited about the focus, Versapay has and continues to have on the Microsoft ecosystem specifically. We know it's not, Microsoft is very unique in the products that they're delivering and how they're delivering them. I think we're uniquely positioned to really understand what the partner role is, how we can best go to market with our partners and with Microsoft to serve customers in a really outstanding way. This is not necessarily true for every single ISV that kind of shows up in the space. I think really having history and a rich understanding of the ERP and of, just generally like business relationships and how Microsoft operates is extremely helpful for us and really helpful for the overall customer experience that we're able to deliver. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how we continue to focus on this specific product line and deliver for those customers.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Meredith, all of that. I think the one thing in closing that I would say, Jason, is, and I mentioned it earlier, the time is now. It couldn't be any better time for partners to start working with us, to re-engage with us, old ChargeLogic legacy partners that, want to come in and join the Versa Partner Program and really be, because the CFOs are asking for it now. Whether or not it's a net new installation of an ERP or it's an existing base client, there's real life issues that are going on. We mentioned a few of them earlier, and the CFOs are ready. So jump on the bandwagon, and it's not a short trip. It's going to definitely continue, I think, for a while, but you might as well get early on that wave and be part of those CFOs that are really focused on the digital transformation of their accounting operations. I'd say, time is of an essence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I said I didn't have anything else to say, but I do have one last comment because David just spurred some thoughts in me. The time is absolutely now. And I think that sometimes when we're talking to customers, the idea of transforming a business process around AR can feel really scary and overwhelming. I think that's some feedback we get, right? Is like, you're busy enough. You're like just dealing with the everyday, making sure your payments get applied or matched. You're talking to customers. It can be overwhelming. And you might have a huge staff devoted to just like making this machine keep running. And so like the idea of just the change management around transforming that process, I think can feel overwhelming. And what I really love about the approach that we're taking at Versapay is that, because we start all of our technology with the foundation of our payment application in Business Central or in F&SCM, that customers can start simply there. You could just start taking payments in your ERP today. And that could be your first step towards digitization that ultimately leads you towards transformation. But you can just start with that kind of small bite out of the apple and then layer on things like, okay, now I want to email invoices to my customers, let them pay online. Okay, great. Now you're at least accepting credit card payments, ACH payments online, all of that cash applications happening for you. Then maybe you want to layer in a customer portal. Okay, great. Now my customers get full transparency into their account. They can make payments. They can store payment methods. So you're kind of giving, that next level of customer service and usability. And then, from there, you can kind of, upgrade again. And when I say upgrade, I really just mean we kind of turn on some additional functionality behind the scenes for you, where now you have supplier side of the portal and the customer portal and our advanced cash application and all of that functionality for us is basically kind of a flip of a switch and getting some settings set up and, turning you on. So this idea of transformation can feel really overwhelming, but we can help you start really small and kind of walk this path with you to get where you want to go, to get to the other side of that. Anyway, so I know it can be overwhelming for folks, but I think this approach can feel like we can really partner together and help you start small and get where you want to go.
All right. Yeah. And things, as you said, are moving quickly in so many different ways right now in the Dynamics ERP space. I want to thank you both for taking the time today, Meredith and David. Great getting a chance to get an update from you on the company and the products and your progress. I hope we can do it again soon. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks so much, Jason.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Meredith and David for joining me. And here's a message from Versapay. Put what you learned on the MSDW podcast today about Versapay's integrated payment solution for Microsoft Dynamics 365 into action. Check out the link in the show notes to book and attend a meeting with Versapay, and you will get a complimentary $15 gift card to Starbucks or Uber Eats. Conditions apply, so check the information in the show notes too. And that's it for this episode. To get in touch with me, send me an email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. And for all of our updates, please follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.